Okay, good evening to everybody. Welcome to Tesco. So by show of hands, how many of you shop or ever shopped at Tesco? So all of you, or probably most of you, almost all of you. So whenever we meet people, whether to work at Tesco or speak about Tesco, I guess it's quite unusual because everybody we meet is also one of our end users or customers, and they have some opinion of what we do and how we do it. And we are part of everyone's life in some way or another. Even when I went and I did some yoga a couple of weeks ago, and I was completely somewhere else in the end when you do this meditation, and then the yoga teacher said, "Who have lost the Tesco SIM card?" So I thought, I cannot get out, I'm always feeling Tesco, I see it everywhere. So you all know Tesco very well. You know what the user experience sometimes is, whether it's one of our club cards or different apps or the Tesco.com or Tesco stores, etc. So today I want to talk to you about another part of Tesco, not the one that you normally see, a glimpse behind what happened behind the scenes, and to show you how design can actually have a massive impact on a company. Tesco is probably the largest company in the UK. At least we employ more people than anyone else, excluding the NHS. So we have hundreds of thousands of what we call colleagues, millions of people who shop with us, not just in the UK, but also in the Republic of Ireland, in Central Europe, in some parts of Asia. So we make a massive impact on business, on the environment, on society, on health, on welfare, on farms. And design is part of this, and we will talk about this today. I'll show you some stuff. So before we start, so we also registered on Slido. So you can go to www.slide.do, or if you have an app, and there is a code. So at the end, when we have a panel discussion and questions, if you have any questions throughout the talk, then just put it on Slido, and then the facilitator of the panel discussion will pick some of the questions, hopefully the difficult ones, and we will enrich it with whatever comes from the audience. So hashtag K808 will be the code for the event, and I hope you got it. So without further ado, we'll now talk a bit more about Tesco. So this is what we call custard creams. We sell lots of them. So here's one of them. So I'm going to ask you a question, and the winner, we're going to get this for free. So before you answer, think for a second, how much do you think one of these actually cost? What? Hey? I like this question. To buy in the store or online? ATP. What did you say there? 38. So you're the winner.
Or I buy too many custard creams.
So when you sell something like this is not like a design agency who say this is the rate we want plus this kind of margin. There is all kind of psychology, price elasticity. You all think it's much more expensive than it is, for example. But then one of our competitors have a luxury one for 67p. So the cost to produce is one thing, but how much we can sell is another. And there's a lot of factors, a lot of considerations, a lot of data science and artificial intelligence and price comparisons and data. It's not different to selling equities on some stock exchange capital markets or bond trading or whatever else. However, so you can see here the actual price, 36p. However, this morning I put my eBay app, and it costs $5.69 on eBay. You can actually buy it on eBay, and you better hurry up because it's almost gone. It's a bit strange, really. So whoever tell me,
More than 60% sold.
I don't know. So whoever tell me why this goes for so much more, I will give you another one. I don't know if that's that desirable, but you look good, you'll be clever. So why do you think people will buy this on eBay for so much more money?
Convenient.
Is it more convenient on eBay?
Limited supply.
Sorry?
Limited supply.
So this is what happened. We have food technologists. We have people who work in research and development on new products. We have labs for innovating new recipes and all kinds of products, our own brand products. We decided to make it healthier and tastier. It says on the packet, our bakers have been baking biscuits for more than 50 years, passing down the knowledge and care. But we thought we'll change it. So the internet went crazy. Tesco outrages shoppers by changing its custard cream recipe. So people are now going on eBay and they want the old one. So you can see that it's quite complicated to do this. This is a project. To make one new one like this is a project. So we have people who do market research. They look at the latest trend. They might decide that there's a trend for avocado being a hipster superfood. People like hummus dips, veganism, and what have you. Let's make guacamole hummus. So they will do the same process you guys do. They will create concept. They will do research. They will experiment. They will work with suppliers. What's happened there?
Sorry. Oh, I just saw my friend. Sorry.
So how many own brand products like this do you think we have at Tesco? This is not the only one. Hundreds of these, right? You think tens of thousands. So we actually have about 10,000. And many of them will change year by year. And sometimes we make mistakes like this. So one of my teams are creating, for example, technology that makes it easy for people who work in research and development to come up. Some of it come up from magical brain waves or whatever, but to come up with the management of creating these things, testing it, testing the flavors. Is it dunkable enough? This needs to be dunkable, but a lettuce doesn't need to be. So attributes are very different to how people prefer. So when you say user needs, what are the user needs? So who wants this? Simon, it's yours.
I was just putting a bid in.
So with that in mind, we also need to know the data that describe each product and its attributes. For example, allergens. Each supplier, we have many tens of thousands of them, will send us data in different formats, and we need to make sense of it. So we build and design technologies to allow us to manage the underlying data that these products have in a consistent way. Any one of these things has massive impact on the environment, on profitability, and on making the right decisions. So I have here a little video just to give you a bit behind the scenes what happened at Tesco. So if you think about it, you've learned nothing, because it's bloody obvious that a company like Tesco will have all these kind of logistic, shippings, operations, supply chains, and so on. But many people I meet, when they work with us on some of these things, they say, oh, I didn't realize that you'll be doing all this. And any one of these things is based on a lot of data, a lot of very clever technology that we build in-house. We have a very large technology organization within Tesco, thousands of people, hundreds of product managers. We have a very large design community, and we do a lot of research and design to get the underlying system to run these operations as easy to use and as clever as possible. So all of this is done at a massive scale. So for me, as a person involved in design, the sense that whatever I do has a massive impact is quite exciting, sometimes a bit overwhelming, because we really need to be careful. If we make something wrong, it can be a catastrophic impact. In the same time, as we say, every little help. With design, every little help a lot. So it's a very interesting environment, and it's done in an international scale. This is some of the areas where we operate. So from what we spoke so far, and if you think of that video, you can see there's some stuff around R&D, developing the right products, and also working with our suppliers to innovate and to collaborate. We refer to them as partners. We're creating also portals for them so that everything is very transparent and allows us to co-create new things. Planning and trading, so that's where we decide on promotions and deals, on cost agreements and prices, on ranges. Execution, many thousands of vans and trucks and depots, controlling the movements of lots of items in lots of different places. I think you can appreciate that it's a very, from a technology and design perspective, quite complex thing to do, and working with our suppliers. This is the famous double diamonds. They exist in many different flavors. Some agencies have created their own version of it, coming out with their own 4Cs and 5Es and whatever. But underlying to this is the same thing. Start in an expansive way, do a lot of research, narrow it down to a definition, and then ideation, development, delivering, etc. We do some of this in very quick iterations. And when it comes to optimize, we have lots of analytics to measure and understand what we do. So we are accountable to what we say. We don't just come up with the idea and see what happened. Even if we created something for our own colleagues, we already have up to 450,000 end users. So it's bigger than most startups will have in the entire life cycle in terms of the population of users. And when it comes to Agile product management, one of the things we've managed to do is to train about 900 people in product management and Agile methodologies. Our approach is basically based on a few steps. The first thing we call understand your customer. So all this evangelism of the importance of understanding your customer and being customer-centric, that's essentially part of Tesco from day one 100 years ago. We brought it into technology products. So we understand our customers. We understand your market, create a vision. From then on, we create a strategy for how we'll deliver that vision. So every one of the hundreds of product managers have a vision. A vision without implementation is hallucination. So we also then have trained them with how to create prioritizations, how to focus on OKRs, which we call outcomes, not objectives, outcomes and key results. Unlike KPIs, which are more like health checks of how I'm doing, we actually design for outcomes. We say what are those outcomes and how we will know what they are, if they happen or not, and we push for that. Some of them are environmental or social. I'll show you in a second more about that. Some are to do with satisfaction and other emotional responses, and some are to do with performance, adoption, and so on and so forth. That's from an experience point of view. but it always ladders up to business objectives that are very clear. Otherwise, it won't get prioritized. And they've also been trained on road mapping. So we all use the same language. Design thinking, human-centered design, etc., is aligned with the way that our product management work in most of what we do. And that's how we work at Tesco within the enterprise. We also have labs, innovation labs. So innovation is not something that's owned by labs. Innovation is everywhere. But what labs is about is looking at, on a more future or long-term, how can we employ some of the latest technologies. For example, we've announced recently, we looked at frictionless shopping. That's where we have on our own campus, head office. We have a campus with buildings and green and what have you. So we have there a small test code where we have cameras and we can see what people put in their baskets, and then they can just leave and it takes payments automatically. We're experimenting with that. It's based clearly on machine learning that can use pattern recognition to see what things are. If I take in crisps and I throw it out, it puts custard creams, my basket will just change, and we're exploring that, plus many other things. That's what labs do. They run hackathons. In our last hackathon, there were 400 people. And they were all based, except for a couple of companies who taken part, they're all from Tesco. We came up with all kind of cool things. And we explore all kind of other type of emerging technologies, robotics, and so on. I'll give you now a little example of what we call range. So the Tesco universe within commercial is broken into categories. For example, bakery. Each one is broken into a range, and a buyer is wary about making range decisions. What's in my range? What are the needs of customers? How much I can ask for this, and it will sell, and so on. So here's an example for you. This is your range. It's a very contrived, simplified example because we will have 380, as I checked earlier, sauces in our range. But this is an example of a range. So if you are a buyer and you want to add another sauce or dip or marinade to your range, what do you think is missing? It's not a quiz, by the way. So to help you, I've chosen three things. So this is the infamous Tesco barbecue sauce, the HP brown sauce, or a reduced 50% reduced sugar Heinz ketchup. Which one would be the best to be added to the range? Who said HP? Why do you think HP?
You already have a bunch of tomato ones, and then you also barbecue and very popular. So it's just an additional option.
So, in fact, the answer is, like every consultant would say, it depends. There's no right answer. It depends on customer needs. So we need to know what are the customer needs. Is it for color? So maybe we need something brown. Is it for something healthy? Is it for another ketchup? Is it a smaller bottle of ketchup? It's a posh ketchup? Maybe mayonnaise? We need to know the customer needs for everything. And then to cluster it. It's a bit like information architecture. But when you can do multifaceted hierarchies and all kind of stuff online, on a shelf you have limited space. So there's also a question, which store? Is it an extra where I have more space? Or is it one of those metros? Or maybe I should take this out and put two of them. Or if I take one out, what can I substitute with, if not from here? All of this is based on data science and on all kind of other parameters where the human brain cannot do it. It's just too much. So we did some ethnographic studies, and we looked at how people in our campus who work as buyers go to meetings, what might they want as different measures to consider, how they can make better range decisions. What if we had a workspace that they can see the range, but if they got AI-based recommendation for what bottle should be there, they can actually do a what-if analysis. It's a bit like Netflix. If people saw this video, they can see that video. Well, what's the impact of getting it wrong? After 10 minutes, you can click pause. Here, you'll have trucks and shipping going on and tankers and who knows what, and millions of customers being disappointed and lots of money lost. Or we might delist a supplier and destroy some of their livelihood where they should be featured. So it's very, very carefully need to be thought through. And we are creating all kind of data visualizations to help them to make better business decisions. This is what our data science community look like. I think it's too dark, but basically, not the best screen, but basically, so that was last week. We had an event, or the week before last, we had an event called the Data Mashup. It's an internal Tesco event. There were like 600 or 700 people from Tesco Mobile, Tesco Bank, Dan Hamby, which is a data science company in our group. And the AI, the machine learning, the mathematician that work as part of making all this happen, combined with design, is just unbelievable. When it comes to making decisions on so many different aspects of running a more effective retailer. Even if you take these vans, so we have thousands of them in the streets going around, so it's not dissimilar to a company like Uber, where we have technology for route planning. It's not just making sure we can use less van to deliver the same in online fulfillment. It also means less fuel, less wastage, less pollution. And unlike in Uber, we also need to know each one of these trays, where does it go? Because the last one in is the first one out of the van. So everything needs to be aligned. So there's a lot of considerations, what needs to be refrigerated or not, and so on and so forth. And when we looked recently at some ethnographic studies we've conducted and created a service design blueprint, that's what the service design blueprint look like for putting it on a van. And from that, we've been hunting for opportunities. I'm kind of sick of people keep saying pain points, and just kind of improving the current world. This was an exercise of reimagining and reinventing a new model. And we did it with what we call pop-up studio, where we went back and co-created with the people who work in these operations. As opposed to big bang research, we somehow know everything and then we disappear and then here you go, and change managers help us to train people. So instead of that, we've taken some more humble approach. We are not that good researchers. We can't capture everything and we want to involve people. So we've been running this in 8 weeks, very quickly, 3-4 days of research, co-create with people, come back, do more research, and so on and so forth. We've achieved a lot. We had people going to stores looking at how we do the pickup. Some of you may have seen these. Some of them, sometimes they're called personal shoppers or pickers. So they have these apps, and they go around and they look for things. Even that has route planning within the store. For example, it makes sense to take avocado after cucumber and then chicken rather than going in a crazy way. But there's all kind of other stuff. Maybe when Paul over there ordered something, by the time it was picked, it's not in stock. So what do? So we looked at all kind of journey mapping and so on and so forth. And once again, if you think of artificial intelligence or machine learning, it gives me a substitute. Lloyd's Grossman tomato is not in stock. You should put Tesco onion and garlic. What if chicken is not in stock? So put beef. They could have destroyed the dish for someone. What if there's no coriander? Put parsley. Terrible. Because they look almost the same. They're completely not, right? So it's very, it needs to be, it's very simple. It's extremely complicated behind the scenes. And one more example is when it comes to quality. So a truck comes to our depot, let's say strawberries. So we've identified what defects might be in a strawberry and what the quality we expect. The roundness, the color, the shape, the sweetness. The app can take pictures of it, can do lookups and find out what it should be and at what tolerance level it's acceptable. And that allows us to very quickly make sure that there's no wastage and all the quality is controlled in a very efficient way. So that doesn't look sexy, and I could have been more, maybe forgive me, I didn't make up an iPhone 11 around it. But I think you get the point. And people are telling us this is a game changer. For example, they no longer need to go to the other side of the depot and to look at the specifications. So it saved them lots of walking. Could we not just give them scooters and forget with these apps? We have to ask any question, be disruptive, because it's about outcomes. So what we acknowledge overall is that at that level of making this kind of stuff digitized, you can call it digitization. That's what a lot of people refer to as digital transformation, but they're just digitizing stuff. That's not good enough. And your work as designers, just to make things usable, is really not good enough either. Because making something easy to use is not negotiable. It has to be. It's not good enough. If that's what you do in your life, maybe you're wasting them. It's just a given. And to take it to the next level of some finding new efficiencies and fixing pain points, it's very tempting for Tesco because every little help is astronomical outcome. But we want to go to another level. So when we go to full digital transformation, for example, in commercial world, how to make better business decision, that's a big question. It's how do you find new ways to make more money? For example, how do you find new ways to reduce waste? How do you help people in an insight-driven, proactive, empowered way to focus on utilizing what they're best as people, as humans, not just fighting with machines on low-level stuff? And this is the journey we're taking. So for example, knowing all the data about this, which come in different PDFs, file and emails from different suppliers, is just that. Doing something easier with managing is another. Are we selling the right biscuits? Are we? I think eBay has other ideas. But it's not just about money. It's for Tesco, we have 6 things we measure. They are to do partially with money, not in any order of importance. But without money, you can't do anything else. But it's about revenue growth, profitability, and cash flow. But it's also about our colleague experience, our partner supplier experience, and our customer experience. And we measure other things like wastage. So this is what today wastage look like. A third of the world of food goes to waste. That's a fact. 1 billion tons of that food never makes it to a plate. And 1/9 of the people in this world, they go to bed every day hungry. So what can we do about this? Food waste accounts for 8% of greenhouse gas emission. That's just a number. What does that number mean? If that was a country, it will be just behind the US and China and how much greenhouse emission it contributes to. That's huge. So everything I told you so far, designers have a responsibility to make some design decision that can drive, through technology, better decision, less waste, and all kind of other initiatives. This is some of what we've done so far. Without design, we already donated 77 million meals. Only 0.1% of the food that is safe for human consumption is wasted nowadays. And 38 of our big suppliers and Tesco are very transparent about where we are. We're not hiding it, and we keep helping with technology and design to help people to make those better decisions. And this is some of our targets. So we want 81% of food that is wasted, which hopefully not be very much, to be redistributed to humans or animals. Depends what it is. Food waste in our operation will be halved. And in our supply chain overall, we work with 30,000 farms, for example, waste will be halved. And to do that, we're working with our suppliers. We created a partner portal where we co-create, innovate, come up with a very transparent model so they can understand how well they're doing. And once again, we've been creating all kind of new ideas through design thinking and research to improve the way we work. So in conclusion, I think you will agree that these are very exciting times for us in design as an industry. The last decades or so, when it comes to UX, more and more people became aware of what it is. We no longer need to as often fight and explain, but now people expect what we've been telling them. They expect more. There's massive responsibility on our shoulders, and if we harness our talents and our energy and our wisdom to the right causes and things, we can really impact health, the economy, the environment. So I would like to tell you all, there's a finite number of projects in our life, whether it's Tesco or not. So I'm just saying, please make sure you focus on the right things. Design stuff that matter. Don't just think, I want another gig because I need to pay my mortgage. There's more than that to life than a mortgage and a gig. There is a legacy that we all leave behind, and we can do stuff that matters. We need to be accountable, and we need to design for outcomes. Sometimes people in design say, we need a chair at the table or whatever. There is no board that says, hey, where's the designer? Is it? Some companies get a chief design officer or whatever. They need to be asking for us, because we can be the people who actually drive the glue between innovation, customer insights, and what people should actually be doing. We don't just deserve it. So unless we talk their language, unless we also business focus and design for the right outcomes, then that won't just happen.